All right, Adam, our next episode of Fight Talk MMA. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking. So you want to talk about our friend Ben Askren?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, what do you think? Because when they traded him, for Demetrius Johnson, I mean, it was kind of a strange deal from the UFC side because okay, even though Ben Askren was undefeated at that time, but Demetrius Johnson is like one of the greatest combat sports athletes ever, who ever participated in mixed martial arts, like probably in the top 10 all time. So I was a bit surprised, and I think the UFC made a bad deal with it, because especially given that like now we know that Ben Askren retired like 3 fights after that. But I was kind of surprised even at that time.
Yeah, yeah. I think Demetrius Johnson is one of the most underrated fighters ever
Hmm.
because, and the reason for it has been mentioned on several podcasts and in different kind of medias, but I think the main cause is because it's his weight category. He's too small. There's something about watching heavyweights fight. They can be sloppy, they can be fat, they can be ugly. But it's heavyweight, right? So you still watch it. With this featherweights or bantamweight or what's it called, the category, I think it's just too small. I think maybe that's can be the reason.
Uh, could be, but obviously that could be the reason why he was not getting a lot of pay-per-views and shit like that. I think the other reason was that he's like not a shit talker. He's a very respectful guy, and he always respected his opponents. He's not like Conor McGregor or someone like that, like Sean O'Malley, for example. So
Hmm.
I think that was the other thing. And yeah, from that perspective, I think signing Ben Askren was, seemed like a good deal because he was talking a little bit of smack and everything, But I mean, Demetrius Johnson is just a better fighter overall.
Yeah, especially now how we came back in the ONE Championships.
Yeah,
How he demolished his opponent. The one who he
yeah,
lost his title belt to, and then he recovered in a fantastic form. The way that he ducked the punches, moved around it, and hit him, and then finished with the knee. Did you see when he finished with the knee? You had like a split of a second to evaluate. Do you continue with the ground and pound? Do you like follow up on the, when he's down? Demetrius didn't even look at him. He knew the minute he hit him with the knee, it was over. He had him.
yeah, yeah. And
His
it's kind of
confidence
weird
was
because
amazing
that's
to
the
watch.
that's the same way how he got knocked out in their first fight, because this was the rematch, obviously. And yeah, and I think that the reason why he wasn't so popular in the UFC is also because they didn't have any competition for him at that time. Like he kind of demolished everybody. Like
Very
okay,
good point.
in the last UFC fight, like Henry Cejudo beat him on a split decision,
Hmm.
but I think that they should have made like a third match with Henry Cejudo, and then after that it was Davison Figueiredo who came into the UFC, and it would have been a great fight as well. Also with Brandon Moreno, like Brandon Moreno could fight Demetrius Johnson, it would be an amazing fight. And I think that these fights would draw a lot more pay-per-views than Demetrius Johnson's previous fights because he was always dominating them. So I
Yeah.
think that's also a reason why why people didn't really watch it because it was obvious that he's gonna win.
Yeah, he cleaned out the division. That's for sure. And a good point as you mentioned earlier that he's a positive guy. He's so respectful. He's a true martial artist. So he relies on his tasks. His handiwork. He looks to the job that he's going to do, and that's what he's focusing on. And that's not enough for the main audience. They want to see some drama, they want to see some shit talk, but he's complete opposite of that. Which brings me to Ben Askren. You know, that change was very strange because of many reasons. But in hindsight, looking back, getting Ben Askren as a fighter in the UFC as a replacement for Johnson, I can't imagine a worse trade. Ben Askren for me has never, ever, in my eyes, been a good fighter.
Why do you say that though?
Because his work ethic is shit. His attitude is shit. And the same thing like Colby Covington, he understood somewhere in his career he needed to talk shit to get some good fights. And that's what Ben Askren did. He blew up on social media. He was talking shit, calling out people. That's how we got to know him. And you see how he got knocked out by Masvidal, and like, Jesus Christ, this was a chance for you
Yeah,
to
but
prove yourself.
I don't know like
I just
what you
want to
say
finish.
about
Yeah, I
him.
know, Adam. I just want to finish this one because I have so little respect for that man. How he prepares himself. He looked like a sack of potatoes in his fights, you know. And he's a wrestling background. These guys are like machines normally. And he was shit talking, and he wasn't able to back it up. Okay, you have some good fights early in the career. At the end of the career, when the change happened, I don't think he maximized what he could get out of his career. And what you see when he's fighting Jake Paul and get knocked out like that, without any respect for the fighting world, how can you take a fight such as to a famous YouTuber and get knocked out like that? You're not prepared
Yeah,
for that.
yeah, but I think that the Jake Paul fight is totally different. Like what I wanted to say is that I don't know about his work ethic because like he's been champion in Bellator and he's been champion in ONE FC as well, you know, and he had like record of like 18-0, I think, when he came to the UFC. So I think that earlier on, for sure, he must have had a good work ethic and everything because I mean to become champion in like two organizations, you know, it's a big thing according to me. But I mean, you know, the Jake Paul fight is obviously a different matter because he was retired at that time, and it's very clear that he just came back for the money, and he didn't give a shit about that boxing match. You know,
You know what,
it was
Adam?
clear he didn't give a shit.
There's no argument in the world that can make me believe in Ben Askren as a fighter. He's a piece of shit. That's what he is. He's a sack. Looks like a sack of potatoes, and his attitude is like terrible, and he has no charm. He just understood he needs to talk shit to get some fights. And he got some fights. He got the maximum situation out of his career, and he kind of like ended on top, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that guy is a yeah. I don't want to say it, but the trade for Demetrius Johnson and him, they are so far apart that you don't have any words to describe it. So if there's politics, as far as I know, that's the only trade that's ever happened between those two organizations ever.
Yeah, I don't know about anything else either, any other trade. But I mean, you know, as you mentioned, Colby Covington, like I think probably the UFC was thinking that Ben Askren will be like another Colby Covington in a way that, you know, like he talks shit, and if he can back it up with fighting, you know, then he could have been, you know, someone like really famous, you know, and let's say
Which fight did he have?
if he beat Jorge Masvidal that night, you know, then you know
There's no
it's
chance
quite
in hell.
possible that
There's
he
no
would have
chance
got a
in hell he
title
would
shot
beat
then.
him. There's no chance
Was
in
that
hell. And he was lucky. The fight before, who was that against? That was a proper fighter.
Robbie Lawler?
Yeah, Robbie Lara. And he was lucky with that because it was an early stoppage. In my
Yeah, it
opinion.
was for sure.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was for
He
sure.
came
Yeah,
out of the judge, and then after the judge stopped it, I don't remember who called that fight. You remember? Like
I
big
think it was Herb Dean.
Herb Dean, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's who it was, right? And Herb Dean, he felt like shit after that fight. You can see it. I didn't hear
Yeah,
him
yeah,
interview, but you saw him like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Like immediately when he broke the fight, he just stood up. There was
yeah,
no sign of fatigue, no sign of submission, no nothing.
yeah. He was not. You know, he was not out. You know, for sure. It was a bad stoppage. You know, it was a
So
bad
so
stoppage. 100%.
so Robbie Lawler would eat Ben Askren for breakfast if it wasn't for that. This is my opinion.
You know, I would love to see that fight again, actually. You know, I would love to see that fight again. But I mean, I'm actually not that sure, you know, if Robbie Lawler will beat him that easy, you know. I mean,
Wow. We agree to
I
disagree.
mean, you saw the Ben Askren fight against Damian Maia.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, Ben Askren got submitted somewhere, I think like fourth round or something.
Yeah.
But you know, like before that, it was quite competitive. Like I think he even took Damian Maia down like a couple of times, and you know, like he would probably lose the fight by decision. You know, Ben Askren. But I mean, you know, it's not that like he got like completely demolished by Damian Maia or something, because it's like even if he, you know, even if you lose to Damian Maia in the first round by submission, you know, it's completely all right, because he's like probably one of the best,
Yeah.
you know, jiu-jitsu fighters in the game. But I mean, Ben Askren had like quite a competitive fight against him. So, you know, at that time, I don't think Ben Askren was that bad, you know.
No, I'm kind of overshadowing his earlier career by the fact I was so disappointed towards his when he talked about how he prepared for the different kind of fights. He was injured, and then he was called out in this fight, and then he took the YouTuber fight. Like, dude, come on, have a little bit self-respect and put yourself in a position where you're able to win a fight and go out with like some legacy or some energy, right? You're getting knocked out by Masvidal without, I don't know, it's the fastest knockout in the UFC history or what? It's certainly up there with the top
Yeah.
five knockouts, and then Jake Paul knocks you out. There's nothing to say about Jake Paul, but come on, he's not a professional fighter. He's starting his career now, and he had more credibility when he knocked out what's his name? What's his name?
Tyron Woodley.
Tyron Woodley, right? And that even surprised me, and it looked kind of odd that Tyron Woodley would yeah. So and now he's
Yeah, that was weird. But I mean, probably Jake Paul is a better boxer than a lot of people think he is, just because like
certainly
he's a YouTuber and everything. But I mean, you know, yeah, like it was back to Ben Askren. It was obviously clear to me that he didn't give a shit about that fight. He didn't give a shit about his preparation, you know, and he just went there for the money, basically. And he didn't even give a shit if he got knocked
there's a
out,
name for
because
that.
he got
There's a
paid.
name for that. We do stuff for
Yeah, I
money. What
know.
do we call that, huh? So so
let's not say these words, right?
yeah, exactly. We already know what we're thinking. So okay, let this be the last talk ever about Ben Askren. I don't want to hear his name in
All
our
right, man,
conversations
for sure.
anymore. I would
It's
talk
like
10
your
times
blood
this week.
pressure goes higher when we talk about him. So
Jesus Christ, yeah. I mean, I'm getting a pulse on
you know, I don't
here.
want you to suffer a stroke or something. So
All right. I will talk 10 times about Demetrius Johnson before I ever mention, whose name again.
yeah.
All right. So Demetrius Johnson, we're happy for him. He's doing a great comeback. Will be exciting what he does from now. I think he should consider retiring. I don't know, like fighting is a young man's game, and he's not getting any younger. So, but over to our next topic. What's that? What are we talking about next?
Right. Did you watch the event last Saturday? Yeah, the event in Paris.
Yeah, not the full one, but I just saw the highlights of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking hell. The way that Cyril Gane knocked out Taito Iwasa, like, but not just the way that he got him knocked out, but I mean, the whole fight was fucking crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, Taito Iwasa knocks him down first, and then at that moment, I thought that he's really gonna finish him, because like even he went like a bit of ground and pound and everything, and then Cyril Gane just comes back with the fucking body kicks and completely destroys Taito Iwasa's body, and then he drops his hands, and then he just hits him with a perfect, I think it was a right hook, but I'm not sure if that's 100% correct, but I think it was a right hook. which he knocked him out with basically. And yeah, it was a crazy fight, man. What do you think of that?
I saw that knockout and I saw the build up for it too. It was a very even fight, and Ty, he looks like a proper heavyweight, right? Because he's not like athletically built physically, right? He's just a big guy who
Yeah,
punches really hard. And I was not surprised, but I was a little bit fascinated about like his stamina, working so hard in the third round, even
mm,
going at it. This big guy, because Cyril, he looks much better shape physically, right? Um,
yeah,
but Cyril, he's a real contender, man. He goes hard for this stuff. He doesn't give up. He get knocked
yeah.
out, he's back up again. So I think that was a fantastic fight. It was a perfect display of a fighter heart of both fighters. And Cyril, he stood the distance and he knocked him out, or TKO.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think yeah, Cyril Gane is an athlete. He's definitely an athlete, and yeah, his fight with Francis Ngannou when he went for the title, uh, so he could have easily win that fight. Like it was in the last round actually when Cyril Gane made like kind of a technical error, like a fight IQ error, when he went for that submission, like that heel hook or whatever.
Yeah.
And he didn't secure the top position, because if he would have secured the top position in that, last round, then he probably gets the decision win against Francis Ngannou, so then he would be champion right now.
Yeah.
So, and that's the only fight that he lost. So
Yeah. There's no margin.
I definitely see him as a champion in the future. Like maybe it's gonna be between him and someone like Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, yeah. That could be a good fight, huh? I see Cyril has 11 fights and one loss. One, I'm guessing the losses against Nagano. And Ty has 15 wins and four losses. So yeah, Ty was a real tough fighter. He surprised me as a big guy and having that much stamina. And Cyril just proved again what he's made of. He's on the top notch as fighters. So it's heavyweight. Everything can happen to that category, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah, man. That's why we love it, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so other fight cards on that. Well, I was a little bit. Did you see the fight between Robert Whittaker and Marvin?
Oh yeah, yeah, man. And that fight, like, exactly played out the way that I was thinking it will, because you know, I I was like almost certain that it's gonna be Robert Whittaker by a decision, because it's like he didn't have a lot of finishes lately, like he beat even Jared Cannonier by a decision, and yeah, like he beat Yoel Romero twice by decision. So he's like not a big finisher, but I mean, his striking is just unbelievable. He's like so sharp and everything, and so technical. And also like his wrestling is on point. Like, Marvin Vettori couldn't take him down. So, and I knew that Marvin Vettori will not be able to take him down, because even Yoel Romero couldn't take him down, who's a fucking, silver medalist in wrestling, in the
Yeah.
Olympics. And I knew that, if that fight doesn't go to the ground, then, Robert Whittaker is just gonna outpoint him. It was pretty obvious to me.
Marvin Vettori, he fought Jack Harmonson, from Sweden, and
Yeah.
and that was like a kind of uh, a special fight for Jack, because he was ranked between the eight best fighters in his category, right? But then he
Mm-hmm.
lost to Marvin, and he's kind of like lost his momentum at that fight. And that was the fight where
Yeah.
I got to know about Marvin Vettori. I haven't heard about it before, haven't probably
Mm-hmm.
seen so much of him. So he's just like a physically strong person, a good fighter, all around fighter. But I don't see any like X factor with him. You know, there's no.
Yeah.
He's just putting in the work, almost like Jack. You know, there's just hardworking guys
Yeah.
puts in the work. But there's no like, wow, whoa, fantastic. You know, they're not creating stuff in the octagon, right? So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see Marvin Vettori the same way, and I think because of this, he will never become champion because there will be always one guy, who's just better than him. Like, I mean, it was Israel Adesanya until now, and now we know that Robert Whittaker is better as well, which was, to me, it was obvious, since the beginning. So is there like Whittaker and Adesanya, they are the two best guys in the division for sure. And okay, now like now there is Alex Pereira, so uh he might beat Adesanya because of the good kickboxing skills. But I mean, let's see. About that fight, I'm not sure at all. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, maybe we're gonna see Adesanya grapple a little bit.
yeah, yeah, true that. This is gonna be, and that's what I love about a fighting game. We never know, right? We can look at it on paper. We can see it. What's the plus and the minuses with the fighters, but till that bell rings, we never know, right? Before we jump into the UFC 279, I want to talk a little bit what I heard about and what I saw about Leon Edwards and Usman.
Mm-hmm.
Seen any interviews after the fights?
I watched the like Leon's post fight interview as well, and also like when he's talking to like Ariel Helwani, about how Usman is handling that loss, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, like Leon says that he's like overplaying it. Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way as well, because yeah, it's just not a natural reaction, what Usman has to this loss.
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit divided in that. That's what I wanted to take a minute to talk about because, um, of course, when you say you're like, oh, the pressure of having the belt is finally off, I think that's just a way for him saying like, fuck, this is just a way for me to comment on my loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when he says that, he's overplaying it, he's doing this and that. I'm more like I listened to Usman on the podcast with Joe Rogan today, and he said earlier in his career he was training a lot with one of the what's his name? Ooh, I can't remember his name. I'm ashamed. But he was talking about his early sparring partners, and when he was fighting him in the gym, he was fighting this guy in the gym, and he got knocked out. He got knocked out in the sparring session, right? And then he
Mm-hmm.
came back, tried to fight him again. Had no defense for the ground, no defense for striking. He just went home with the guy because they were living together, training together, and then he was like that stuck more to him in the loss to Leon Edwards because Leon Edwards, he said, okay, I knew what I did wrong there. I did a mistake there and I got caught, And that's how he
Mm-hmm.
won. It was in the fifth round of the championship
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So he didn't get lucky, but he caught me and I knew what I did wrong. So it's easy for me to accept that. What I had with Rashad Evans, that was the guy. Sorry, Rashad, he's a
Uh-huh.
fantastic player. But Rashad Evans, he just kicked the shit out of him with everything. He didn't have a response for that. He went a long time before he was able to find out how he could handle that guy. He even reconsidered his MMA career because he felt like shit. He didn't have any response for that. So, and when he talked to Joe Rogan, he laughed his
Mm-hmm.
ass off. He talked about this defeat against Leon Edwards. So, in that way, I was like, Jesus Christ, maybe it's a good thing for him. It was like, okay, I know what I did wrong. I'll go back there, get him the way that I want. And it just reminded me we're talking about Usman here. Talking Usman. And he was not manhandled through the whole 5 rounds.
Oh no.
So he did one mistake and he got brutally punished for it, right? And then
Yeah.
and now we just forget about who he is. I don't think so, man. So I think it's like at that level, saying like everything you say, everything you do gets measured, right? If you say one thing, it's interpreted that way. If you say that thing, it's interpreted the other way.
Oh,
So,
that's right, man. Yeah, for
so when he
sure.
said that, like, it's kind of, oh yeah, it's kind of stressful feeling that you have to go defend the belt, defend the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even focus on the numbers. How many times we're gonna break this record? Break like last time I was focusing on the numbers when I was going from Bellator over to UFC because then I needed my numbers to add up on my side on the winning numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
After that, I didn't care about how many winning streak I'm on or what kind of record I'm breaking. I didn't care about that, but there was like a relief of not having to think about that anymore. So
Right.
it made me believe it a lot much more when he said that with Joe Rogan, and I think when he said lost the belt, it's a relief, uh, a mixture between actual belief, relief, and that he was stressed by the situation or influenced by the situation. You know, because people always talk about.
Oh, we will never know actually. We will never know like what's in his mind actually, like it's we can guess whatever we want, but I mean, thing is that we're not gonna know. So
Yeah, but it's so much respect for that fighter Usman. He's a fantastic gentleman. You know, he's an intelligent guy, articulate, funny. So he's. I'm hoping the best for him, but also Leon Edwards. I wish for him also the success that he's having now. He's been
yeah,
struggling with
I,
so
I
many.
really hope I really hope that there will be a third match between them. So I think I mentioned this before that on our previous podcast, that I think that that's the only fight that they should make now, because Usman definitely deserves a rematch, though I would love to see him, against someone like Chimaev.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would just be totally unfair. And I think that I would probably want to see the rematch even more with Edwards, than Usman fighting Chimaev. So I mean, I would want to see a third match to like really see like who's the better guy, and then after that the winner maybe fights the winner of Chimaev and Nate Diaz, which I think it will be Chimaev, but
Yeah,
let's see.
Kamsat Chimaev, he was offered to fight Leon Edwards. They were talking about it. And Leon Edwards, I'll fight anybody. I'll fight anybody. Like Leon said early on, just give me the fight, I'll take it. But
Yeah,
he wasn't given that fight at that time. So I think Leon Edwards and Kamsat Chimaev, uh, whatever happens, if they have a refight with Leon Edwards and Usman, or if Khamzat steps in between, I don't mind either. I think the legacy
yeah.
of Usman would benefit better if Leon fought Khamzat first.
hmm Well, could be. I mean, it would be very interesting, like I mean, yeah, to see Leon Edwards and comes that fight, and then Usman fight the winner of that. Yeah, it would be
Wow.
good as well. Which who do you think would win between Kamzat and Leon?
Um, Very good question. Like my initial thought would be Leon. And
Really?
yeah, and the reason for that is because Leon, he's found his rhythm now. He is in his space.
hmm
He's ready
I
to
mean,
fight
so as
again.
so as Kamzat.
Yeah. Well, Kamsat, he's up and coming.
hmm
And he's talking about they're not gangster. I eat gangster for breakfast, this kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me sit down with Kamsat and ask him, what do you mean you eat them for breakfast? You literally just you boil them in a pan of water and then like, what do you mean? What's that talk about? Like you work harder
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
gym or like explain to me.
I think it's about his mentality, that like he came from, Chechnya, and like he's just fucking not scared of anyone, he's like a fucking monster, and he's,
Leon Edwards is
I
not
I, I
either.
think I think the guy has that kind of mindset that if he gets into a fucking situation with Francis Ngannou, he's gonna fight Francis Ngannou. You know, he's not gonna give a shit about the weight difference or anything. So I think he's talking about that when he says
Yeah,
that.
but
You
I'll
know,
tell you something that you already know, Adam. Young lions, they always fight with power. You know, the experienced lions, they fight with the intelligence, right?
that's right.
If you get kicked in the jaw by a fucking antelope and your jaw breaks as a lion, guess what? You're dead, man. You can't eat, you can't hunt, you can't do anything, right? So Kamsat is
That's
the
right.
young lion or the young wolf, if you want, you know. And he fights. You saw that in his last fight too against the Brazilian. What's his name?
Burns.
Burns, yeah. So he fought it. He was brawling him, you know, brawling him, like going in, instead of fighting him intelligently, right? So that's what I fear about Kamzat. You know,
Yeah.
he's young, he's hungry, he wants it all, and that's okay. And then you could be as tough as you want, but at the end of the day, you know, it's who's fighting smartest. You know, who's in it for the long run.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's
That's right. I mean, he
creating
could.
who is it who is it that is creating openings, right? Puts out movement traps and get the other one to follow into it and then to counter it, or just like that machine run into it. Everybody's seen that. You're
Yeah.
running, rushing, and you get clipped, you know. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if Kamzat fights, you know, let's say Leon Edwards, you know, then he would have to be really intelligent, you know, with his strategy. Because if he stands with Leon Edwards, then Leon Edwards can knock him out easily, you know, just like he did with Usman. But I mean, I think if he would go for the grappling, then because he's probably the best wrestler in that division, probably even in the whole UFC right now. So I think if he takes Leon down, then he can, you know, submit him there.
I think, yeah, of course, but I think Leon is a little bit too experienced now. And when you actually have had that belt, when you have been on top and learned from that, going a 5 minute, 5 round championship fight, what you learn from that is there's no substitute for that. You can train
Mm-hmm.
as hard, come from the war in Ukraine or in the Chechen or whatever. There's no substitute for what Leon has just did. You have to earn it and you have to go through it. And he has just did, and he ended up on top. So we got a couple more minutes left before we have to end, but I'm thinking about now Kamzat Chimaev against our friend, the the Los Angeles gangster, Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Yeah, West Coast gangster, huh? What do you think about that?
You know, I think Kamzat's gonna win. You know, as I said, I think you know, if he doesn't get too crazy though, because that's the thing that if he gets, you know, reckless and everything, then yeah, he can get knocked out, you know, for sure. He can even get submitted, but you know, I just don't see it happening. You know, I think that he will learn from that Gilbert Burns fight. You know, like whatever mistakes he made there. I think he will be, you know, careful with his striking, and I think he will, you know, take Nate Diaz down, and then, you know, probably win by ground and pound. That's what my prediction is, man.
Yeah, ground and pound by Kamzat Chimaev against Nate Diaz. Um, I also believe that. I think Kamzat has the stamina. Normally, Nate has an incredible stamina that makes him go the full round if he's not getting knocked out or submitted, right? And he's a good grappler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. You know, that's probably his background as well as
Yeah,
striking, and he has the stamina. So I think that he's going to be mauled a little because Kamzat Chimaev can match his stamina or over exceed it, right? And
I
then
don't believe that.
you don't think Kamzat is more stamina than
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, like, you know, Nate Diaz runs like fucking, you know, marathons and everything. I think that he has probably the best, one of the best stamina in the UFC. So I don't think that Kamzat's stamina is gonna be that good. But I might be wrong, you know. But I just don't think. But I think that, you know, like Kamzat has the edge with wrestling for sure.
uh,
And overall the ground game, you know, it's like even though Nate is like a, you know, I think third degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, but I mean, you know, I think that Khamzat is just better on the ground. You know, it's just quite obvious.
Okay, let's go for Khamzat Chimaev. Takedowns, ground and pound, TKO. And
That's what my prediction is, man.
Let's hope Tony Ferguson makes some action too. That old crazy bastard, huh? All right, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for the time, and in 4 days we'll have the results.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right, take care, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.